In order to stop allowing this oppression, we have to act.
Even if you feel alone or you're dwarfed by the scale of the enemy, just know that like every person who is trying to resist is right there alongside you. Everything that you do pushes the idea of freedom and independence forward.
Yeah, every little tiny action is an act of defiance.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle movies, books, TV shows, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to watch. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and for the month of February, +1, we will be discussing the show Andor, the TV show Andor. Just this. We're not talking about any other stories, and we're not talking about one episode in particular. We're looking at this show and trying to figure out what about it seems to mirror our current reality so much. What about it makes it feel like maybe it's something you shouldn't be watching, to some people instructive, and more importantly, what is making it speak to so many members of its audience on a level that this kind of TV show doesn't usually reach, especially a Star Wars TV show. Of course, I'm not an expert in Star Wars, so to help guide us through this conversation, I have invited two Cat Trites and Jared Friesen.
Hello.
Hello.
You have already heard them if you've been listening to our series so far. They're back again today, both Star Wars experts and aficionados. Cat is also an AP Lit teacher, here to teach us how we can interpret the themes in Star Wars. And Jared, in addition to being a creative writer like Cat Trites, is also somebody who's very familiar with finding artistic themes with his education in art history. So last time we talked about the Empire, that was kind of a surprise, but that was because I wanted to have that foundation of who the Empire is and who we're going against for the last two episodes of this series. And today I wanted to talk about role models. But when I say role models, I don't want to talk about the main characters we've already discussed. That's Cassian Andor, Axis, and Mon Mothma. Instead, I want to talk about all the little characters, the side characters, the characters that may not even have a name, but actually end up being kind of the driving force that propels the rebellion forward. And I'm kind of looking at them in this very dire, kind of mindset I have of role models for sacrifice, what sacrifices look like, and also this idea of how even small things can make a really big difference, which is what we're looking at here. And I think that that's a really big theme throughout this show is you never know what's going to make a big difference. So there is no action too small to try. And so in doing so, I'm going to list off some characters very briefly that you guys mentioned to me when I brought this theme up. Tell me if I've forgotten any of them. There is Nemik, there's Bix, and Cinta.
Yeah.
So as an introduction, do you think that without these characters, the rebellion would have been able to continue?
Perhaps, but not in the way that it does. A lot of these characters, actually, I think all of these characters directly affect Cassian's journey. They allow him to make the sacrifice that he makes in Rogue One to push the rebellion into becoming an actual rebellion.
I think the show is really purposeful in saying, there is no one moment that saves the rebellion or turns Andor into the person. And so, just like that, there's no one person that everyone meets
that shapes you entirely.
Yeah.
It is this accumulation of influences that you take with you.
And each one of these characters have a direct impact on Cassian. There are lines and quotes from each of them that he brings forward, and those lines and quotes end up pushing other people forward.
Let me ask you another question then. On a much more physical side of this, as writers, how much of a part do these characters play in any episode that they're in? And I mean, first supporting or tertiary character.
If you look at the show as a whole,
yes,
they don't take up a lot of time. But in individual episodes, they do really shine. And I think that's the idea of it, that they make that impact on your life and they're important in that moment.
I think the entire show is like a really good exploration of making three-dimensional secondary characters or even tertiary characters, because each season is 12 episodes. And I think narratively you could say they're broken up into about 3 or 4 episode arcs over the course of that season. So it's like they feel important because they are given like basically like contained narrative arcs to operate in too. So they're very important for that arc, and maybe not forward, but like the characters who continue through, like Luthen, Andor, Mon Mothma, the people who meet them,
They
and,
do
like,
carry
through.
forward.
So they're able to have a really lasting impact in a few episodes of screen time, let's say. Nemik is in like 3 or 4 episodes as part of like a heist.
But his manifesto, which is given to Cassian, is played in the very last episode. So it continues, right? His influence continues.
This is what I want to discuss, because I think, like in the last episode where we said all of these bad people are deeply normal
Yes.
in the ways that they are also bad and deserve the consequences of their actions, or worse, they're also deeply normal. In this one, I feel like the really big theme of the show that I would like to get across is also how these very normal people made a really big difference. So to kind of keep that in mind, because all of these characters are at the biggest level supporting characters and down to even like tertiary characters. So as you go forward, I'd like their name, what their role is, what is their contribution, what's their scene like, and then what carries on from them. And so let's start with Nemik.
All right. Nemik is part of an arc of episodes in the first season that I'll call the Aldani heist. He's part of this group of rebels that Luthen introduces Andor to, that for like the last 5 months has been planning to steal basically like the Imperial payroll from this garrison. So train heist, basically.
Yes. And Nemik is an idealist. He is a gentle soul. He's not built for war. He has written this manifesto, though, which justifies the use of weapons and arms in a fight like this.
In real world terms, he is probably the demographic of a revolution that is highly educated, disaffected college radicals.
Yes.
He's a very young character who has been radicalized by like the theory itself of this revolution.
Yes.
So he's somebody who, like, he was hired to basically sort of be another body in this heist.
Yes.
He would normally be against violence.
Despite being a gentle idealist, he does believe that the only way to defeat the Empire is by using force.
So tell me a little bit more about the manifesto. What are some points that maybe like stick out from that, and how does it become key to the rebellion?
So Nemik's manifesto starts with this idea of like freedom as being natural. It's just there. You have freedom. And then he moves into the inevitability of defiance, and how like every little act that we do can be seen as defiance and rebellion in the grand scheme of things. And then he goes into tyranny and how oppression works, and the idea that, like, I think he says something along the lines of like oppression is a mask of fear or something. I don't remember the exact
Oppression is
quote.
like the mask of weakness.
Yeah, it is this idea that like the Empire only has the power that we allow them, and they oppress us in order to keep that power. Then he moves into a call to action. So his manifesto kind of ends with this idea that like we're allowing them this power, so we need to stop allowing it. And in order to stop allowing this oppression, we have to act. And that act sometimes looks violent.
At the end of season 1, he talked about reflecting on like the sort of atomized nature of the rebellion at this state. Even if you feel alone, or like you're only doing a little bit, or you're dwarfed by the scale of the enemy, just know that like every person who is trying to resist is right there alongside you. Everything that you do pushes the idea of freedom and independence forward.
Yes.
Okay. So then, to close out, how does Cassian physically take this with him?
Basically, Nemik has been writing this out.
He has a recording of it.
Yeah. His audio diary. But when we meet him, Cassian's not yet bought in or committed to it. Not a lot of people in even the heist crew are. But at the end of the heist, Cassian and Vel, who's another main secondary character, and Nemik, who is mortally injured, make it out of this. And as Cassian leaves with the ship and his cut of the money, Vel tells him to take this with him.
The manifesto.
Yeah.
Manifesto.
And throughout his journey, he keeps hold of that too, like this idealism, essentially, in a very physical way.
It slowly kind of like worms its way into his, I want to say like heart as something he believes.
Yeah. And it's definitely not there initially. He doesn't believe it initially. Nemik is radical for them. He is the radical one. He's there because he wants to be there because he believes they're doing the right thing.
Let's move on to another character that actually I don't really know much about at all, and that's the character Cinta.
Cinta is an established part of Luthen's network of resistance people. She's introduced in the Aldani heist arc and then kind of continues to pop up in episodes in the background.
She's a warrior. She's focused on in the Aldani heist and she's focused on the end of the story. But otherwise, she shows up.
Cinta is very much an archetype of the bought-in revolutionary, but that means the cause comes first, and I will do whatever I need to serve the cause.
Including sacrificing her relationship with Vel.
Yeah. She really surprised me as to how cold and like steely I found like the core of her character to be. She doesn't have qualms about putting aside her relationship with Vel, who's Mon Mothma's cousin and like the leader of the Aldani heist. Later on in the same season, she doesn't have any hesitation about when Luthen thinks he needs to do away with Andor, no question. She is just like a knife almost too for the rebellion. She knows what she is and she knows what she's about.
She knows her role.
Yeah.
There are scenes with her and Vel where Vel is clearly looking for a deeper, like she wants their relationship
Like an
to be
emotional connection or
prioritized
something,
sometimes. And Cinta's like, no, the rebellion comes first.
So what is it that Cinta gives or gives up, and how does that carry through the show?
I think the giving up of the relationship with Vel is a big part of her sacrifice. When we see her again in Gorman at the end of the show, there's this scene between her and Vel where they've agreed that when this is done, we can be together again. Like they have this like scene where they talk things out. They're like, our relationship is important, but the rebellion has to come first. And then it's the same episode that Cinta is killed.
Whoa.
And in Friendly Fire, she's helping the Gorman rebellion establish a rebellion, and one of the rebels accidentally shoots her. She dies in Vel's arms, basically. And Vel uses this moment to tell the young rebel, you can't forget this. You will never forget her. You can't give up this cause now, basically, because
You have to carry this forward.
yes, because you did this.
So it sounds to me like this is almost kind of reflective of like two different things. One, the thing that she's contributing is purpose, but also service,
Yes.
which I think is also important to mention because it's something that we can't see in the same way that you can see a manifesto. You can share it, you can hear it, but you really only see the results of service. You don't necessarily see it. And the fact that she carries through this whole show with that, I think is a good demonstration of that. And then also, like you said, through her sacrifice of her relationship to give service, but then tragically through her sacrifice of her life, giving purpose to other people to continue the fight even without her.
If we're talking about like revolutionary archetypes, Nemik is this idealist who will articulate the why of a rebellion. Cinta is a person who's gone through and is just straightly into the how.
She's the doer.
She's set her fixed point on like this rebellion is going to happen and I believe in it. And so I'm going to do whatever I need to. This comes first.
She's also, because of her role in the rebellion, you almost classify her as a tertiary character.
Yeah.
For most of the show, because she's not visible a lot of the times. We know she's there. She has this part in it, but on the surface, it looks minor up until
The end.
the end.
So let's go then from Cinta to another character who I've heard you both mention, but exists in my knowledge between Nemik and Cinta, who I didn't know existed until today, and that's Bix.
Bix is Andor's childhood friend and then eventual love interest. She is a scrap owner on Ferrix and like also secretly a chop shop dealer.
Black market type chop shop.
And that's how she's in contact with Luthen. She actually puts Andor in contact with Luthen in like the first couple episodes. And due to her connection with Andor, she is taken in for enhanced interrogation by the
Torture.
ISB and Dedramiro. Yeah.
Torture, basically.
But I do like this, as we were saying last time, the sort of corporatization of it all.
Yes.
Like we'll use enhanced interrogation.
Yes.
That's like the nice speak, the public speak for torture.
Yes.
Everyone pays a cost for their rebellion. Hers is a lot more of like a physical toll that she has taken on it after.
Sort of like her body and well-being.
Yeah,
Yes.
especially mental well-being too. Like she is definitively traumatized by the torture she undergoes in season 1, but she also has been taking part as Andor kind of becomes another Cinta for Luthen.
And meaning like as Andor sort of becomes like another knife.
Bix is kind of also there operating.
Until she can't. She turns to substance abuse. She also like eventually settles down and just bows out.
And she leaves. And I think on top of the mental well-being, her ultimate sacrifice there is to leave. Andor comes back one night and Andor's like, okay, I know you want to leave, so let's leave. But she also knows that Andor is committed to this now. And so her last sacrifice is that she leaves without him. Ultimately, she gives up their life together so that he can continue the fight without worrying about her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a really interesting comparison because the last two, sort of their ultimate sacrifice was their lives. And this is the first character we've discussed who actually is like,
She
you know
survives.
what? I love that for her, first of all.
Yeah.
But second, like an interesting way to bow out of the conflict because we don't really see that very often where people are like, hey, I've given everything I can. I can't do this anymore. So what last thing do you think that Bix gives to the revolution?
A thing that I have noticed throughout all this too is like the rebellion, in contrast to the Empire, places a lot more emphasis on compassionate human connection. One of its hardest struggles is getting every individual to agree on what should be done. But that disagreement is only because they allow and recognize everybody's individuality and humanity.
The opposite of what we were talking about last time, where the Empire, you serve the system. The system can't serve you, so it doesn't know you. You are a number, you are a cog. But this rebellion relies on individuals and knowing those individuals.
Yeah, it relies on collaboration between individuals. And so like Bix is like, what's the deeper connection than romantic, like lifelong partnership with somebody? As much in the second season as Cassian is fighting for the rebellion, he's also fighting to help protect Bix. And she realizes protecting her will kind of get in the way of the larger goal.
What she gives the rebellion is
Andor.
But to me, at least, Bix also represents hope because she is this positive force in Andor's life. Also, she overcomes this torture. She gets to get her revenge on the torturer. And the end of the show, she's holding a baby with the implication that she has had Cassian's child, which is future.
The idea of like, what are you fighting for?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just the idea. It's not some ideal. This is the very real thing that you want to protect and you want to ensure could continue into the future.
Yes.
And that's sort of what she gives, is this hope of like, this is what life could and should be like.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I said, yeah, because I'm getting emotional. It's not because I'm frustrated with it. Okay. So let's close this out. What do you think that these three different examples give, and why did we pick these in particular?
I think it is a beginning, middle, end of like resistance, where the Nemik is the beginning with his idealism and like the theory of why we should be free. And Cinta,
she's a soldier.
Yeah, she's in the middle of it. Now it's the hard middle part that's going to go on as long as it takes. And Bix kind of represents the other side. This is what life could look like after. And
This is the hope for the future.
Yeah, it's not bright and shining and like perfect, but it's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to kind of frame this. All of these characters, they have their own stories, but it's not a long one. It's not a big one. And like what they contribute, popping in and out and sometimes permanently out of the story. So this idea that to be a role model, you don't need to be a main character, so to speak. And also in real life, like all of these little things, I think like what you said with Nemik's Manifesto, however alone you may feel, there are others who you may not know are looking to you. There are others who are fighting, and your actions, no matter how small, will add up in our pile of sand grains.
Back to Nemik's Manifesto.
Right.
Every little tiny action is an act of defiance.
So that's where we're going to end this episode, and we're going to close out next week with our final episode in this series as we discuss what it sort of takes to meet that moment, and what does it take, what do those moments even look like. But for today, thank you for listening to Radio Taiwan International with my guests, Cat Trites and Jared Friesen.
Thank you.
We'll be closing out this series next week, so please listen in. We'll see you next time.